So before we get started, I wanted to mention something real quick. Because of this comment, I'm thinking about making a Sins video on Iron Man 3, but because all of the Sins on that original video were viewer submitted, I want to do the same thing. I'll link that video on screen now to give you guys the inspiration. If you want to participate, make sure to leave your sin suggestions in the comment section of this video. Although I am kind of worried that I won't get enough or any sin suggestions for this, so if that happens, I'll probably just never end up making that video, and this bit right now is going to end up like one of those MCU post-credit scenes that never went anywhere. And oh my god, this video has so much unnecessary preamble that I'm getting Toy Story Chain 2 Part 5 flashbacks. Let's go. One obligatory sin for the comically oversized timer.
Why do they have to wipe Bucky at this point? Wasn't he wiped before he went into the cryosleep?
Well, it was shown in Winter Soldier that his memories do start to come back when he encounters people from his past, and since this mission is to take out Howard Stark, who he knew, wiping his mind again just seems like a smart idea.
Why the hell would you rob police stations? I know there may be some extra weapons sitting around in the evidence room, but there's no way there would be enough there to make it worth it for supervillainy.
It was explicitly mentioned that this was to get the Avengers' attention.
I know she's a badass, but come on. Black Widow just took out 8 heavily armed bad guys. Did the Avengers not have a drug testing protocol in place?
It feels relevant to mention that Cap's powers literally come from a drug.
Oh good, another villain who thinks he can win a punching contest with Captain f***ing America.
Crossbones is wearing a fucking suicide vest, mate. He doesn't think he can win this. Jeremy completely fails to address the presence of Dean Craig Pelton.
Miriam wastes State Department tax dollars by leaving work, driving to MIT, and briefly f***ing with Iron Man.
Obviously, this was a plot by Mariah Dillard to get Tony to fight Cap. No, I don't actually think that, but can you imagine if that was the case? This is the same actress after all. Oh, and plus one missing for Marvel reusing the same actress twice in the space of a year and expecting us not to notice.
They're being very specific.
Unfortunately, her accent is not.
That actually kind of makes sense considering that she's from a country that doesn't exist in the real world.
The world owes the Avengers an unpayable debt.
That's it. He should stop right there. There's nothing else that needs to be discussed. Not Sokovia or Lagos or even Manhattan. They saved the universe multiple times.
This is going to sound really nitpicky, but they saved the world, not the universe. I mean, they do eventually save the universe when they defeat Thanos, but that hasn't happened yet.
How about dangerous?
As in Batman v Superman, the government comes in and explains that they're scared of superheroes now because of what they can do. And what's the difference between the two movies again? One's brighter and tells a few more jokes and doesn't suck? I mean, what's the difference?
The differences between these movies include literally everything else beside what you just said. But if you really want me to sit you down and give you a play-by-play of all of the differences between these movies, then we'd be here all fucking week. The government tries to blame the Avengers for the destruction in New York when they were the ones who tried to nuke the fucking city. Also, it blows my mind that at no point in this movie does anyone bother to mention the fact that up until 2 years ago, the very government trying to control the Avengers in this movie had been infiltrated by literal fucking Nazis.
Since Mr. Stark announced himself as Iron Man, the number of known enhanced persons has grown exponentially. During the same period, the number of potentially world-ending events has risen at a commensurate rate.
But thinking about the conflicts that arose in the Marvel Cinematic Universe since Tony announced he was Iron Man, Thor came to Earth because of some bullshit that happened on his own planet, which brought Loki and some dickhead robot monster thing with it. The Avengers movie happened because of the stuff that happened in Thor. Iron Man 2 is because some dude wanted revenge against Tony. In Thor 2, the Dark World, something realm, something dark elves. Iron Man 3 happens because another asshole wanted revenge on Tony. The Winter Soldier happens because Hydra is still around, and Avengers 2 happens because Tony created Ultron, and that's the end of that argument.
So this sin is one of the most baffling that I've ever seen on this channel, because I still have no idea what side it's supposed to be taking. As you yourself pointed out, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, and Age of Ultron all directly result from the events in Iron Man, while the others don't. He literally provided evidence for both sides and tried to act like, yup, case closed, this is decided, when all you really did was highlight just how gray this issue really is. My guess is that you just did this so that whoever's watching this can just project their own opinions onto you, so that you don't have to take any actual stances yourself, and that is some of the most non-committal bullshit I have ever seen in my life.
Tony takes out his phone and lays it in a fruit basket so that it can play hologram footage of somebody's dead son. Gee, it sounds kind of stupid when you say it out loud.
I'm pretty sure that's mostly because anything that comes out of your mouth is fighting a constant uphill battle to not sound stupid.
Also, who would have thought there would be a cataclysmic event during a gathering of world leaders? Well, if you hadn't seen Homeland, or Designated Survivor, or White House Down, Independence Day, Batman v Superman, or King Ralph.
You are aware that the characters in this movie don't know they're in a movie, right? They're not Deadpool, so why would they not do something purely on the basis that it happens a lot in movies when they don't know they're in a movie?
Most of it's noise, except for this.
Thank God Sharon is Peggy's niece and was here for the funeral and is in love with Steve Rogers, so she can pass him important information illegally.
Honestly, I have to agree with this sin. Sharon is constantly showing up to help Steve get out of whatever situation he's in. There's actually a whole YouTube video about how this movie would make a whole lot more sense if Sharon turned out to be a villain. I'll link it on screen now if you want to check it out.
If he's been hiding out here for the last couple of years, more like Bucky rest, am I right?
This is actually a really funny joke, but it has also festered into my brain to make me think of this stupid fucking pun every time I see this city's name. So I'm tempted to add a sin for this one out of spite. However, because I do think this is still funny, I think that evens it out, so I'm just going to keep the sin counter the same.
We now take you to Vision and Scarlet Witch, the most powerful characters in this movie, flirting over some goddamn soup.
Because apparently, powerful characters aren't allowed to flirt for some reason.
Hello everyone, I'm Everett K. Ross from the Black Panther series of comics. I am not to be confused with Thaddeus Ross, the guy from Incredible Hulk, who also makes an appearance in this movie.
Apparently, Jeremy is flabbergasted by the idea of two characters having the same name, so he should definitely stay away from A Song of Ice and Fire then.
Okay, if we have to remove 3 sins for this, I guess we will. Sin counter will not be happy.
Why do you have some kind of a problem with removing sins? It always brings something positive to a CinemaSins video whenever this happens. You know what? Just to spite you, I'm gonna remove all the sins on this video, because apparently you seem to have some kind of a fucking problem with that. And yes, I do remember that I did this exact same thing in my It video, but that's one of my lowest viewed videos, so I can probably get away with this, as long as I remember to cut this part out and definitely don't add a link to that video on screen now for you to see my shame.
Because I'm not the only Winter Soldier.
Remember, Bucky's only the Winter Soldier because Zola remembered he got thrown off the train in the first movie and went backpacking in the mountains to pick him up later for some dumbass reason. What's so special about Bucky that they needed to give him the serum in the first place? Then they kidnapped a whole bunch of people in 1991 and gave them the serum. And doesn't Hydra know the ingredients of this cocktail? They had access to Zola for years. I guess they didn't, because Bucky had to kill Tony's parents for it and set up this fight at the end.
Okay, so I'm not going to blame you for not knowing this, because I didn't know about it until researching for this video, but the reason why Bucky was special was because he was first given the serum when he was captured in the first movie before Steve came to rescue him. That's part of the reason why he was able to survive the fall in the first place. And it must have been some sort of rudimentary version of the serum, because Hydra doesn't know how it's made. They killed the guy who invented it, and the one remaining vial of it was destroyed.
They can take a whole country down in one night. You'd never see them coming.
Why haven't they then? I know in Winter Soldier, Zola said something about blah blah, take away freedom, blah blah, people resist, but if you have 30 super soldiers all created before the Avengers existed, then why not use them to do that very thing?
Because immediately after they were created, they rioted and proved themselves to be unstable, so they were put back into cryosleep.
72 hours. Guaranteed.
36 hours.
Arbitrary timeline is arbitrary.
That is a deadline, not a timeline.
And I've had these powers for 6 months.
Peter's only had his Spidey powers for 6 months, but Tony's had time to scout him, study the strength of his webbing, and build a suit for him.
This is Tony fucking Stark we're talking about. He could probably do all that in an afternoon.
Cap and Tony take an hour and a half to start Civil War.
Maybe that has something to do with these guys being really close friends. The whole movie up until this point was all about believably building up the tension between them before they could start duking it out.
Because we only know Steve and Tony's strong feelings on the Sokovia Accords, the other combatants in this melee start to run together. I've got to remember Natasha's on Tony's side because reasons. Rhodey and Vision are on Tony's side because they're boring. Black Panther's simply on the anti-Winter Soldier side. Spidey's in it for the money, just like the studios involved. Ant-Man and Hawkeye are on Steve's side because still trying to figure that out. Wanda's on Steve's side because of peer pressure, but I generally forget every bit of that after every 10 seconds of random hero and hero violence.
Okay, so I agree with the central point of this sin, being that most of the characters besides Cap and Tony don't really have any clear reason to support either side of the Accords, but I do take issue with Jeremy saying that Peter is doing it for the money and claiming to not know why Hawkeye and Ant-Man joined Cap. The real reason for both of those is that when Captain America or Iron Man come to you asking for help, you fucking say yes.
I didn't kill your father.
Then why did you run?
What kind of question is that? He was running because you were chasing him in a scary catsuit.
This is legit one of my favorite sins on the entire channel, because it correctly points out a line that is kind of dodgy, while being delivered in a way that still makes me chuckle every time I think about it.
That thing does not obey the laws of physics at all.
Look, kid.
Peter would be excellent at CinemaSins.
I'll take Vision, you get to the jet.
By the way, Tony's side could stop this whole thing by simply destroying the jet or disabling it, but nobody's gonna do that.
Jeremy seems to be forgetting that this is a fucking airport, so if Tony's side did destroy the jet, Captain Bucky could still very easily steal and commandeer one of the many other planes in the near vicinity.
Paul Rudd is such a goddamn national treasure and a welcome bit of levity in this movie that I'm removing a sin for his awesomeness.
Jeremy praises something that I like.
Heartbeat detected.
Why don't we just call this movie Civil Unrest, or Domestic Disturbance 2, the one without Vince Vaughn? What's so war about this civil anyway?
I struggle to think of what any of this has to do with the fucking movie.
Did he give you anything on Rogers?
No, told me to go to hell.
Ross, who doesn't trust Stark when it comes to Zemo, suddenly trusts Stark in this situation and doesn't have him followed. Oh, how lucky, Black Panther just happens to be 5 seconds behind Iron Man, even though he was secretly following Cap and Bucky the whole time.
These two sins are back to back. The first one is, why the hell doesn't Ross have Tony followed? And the next one is, how did Black Panther know to follow Tony? I don't know, Jeremy. Maybe considering that T'Challa and Ross have been working together, these two questions might be able to answer each other. Also, what on earth makes you think that he's been following Cap and Bucky? He was held off by Black Widow when she shot him with that zappy thing, and then he had to continue to stay back so that he could rat her out to Ross.
What was her name again?
Dolores. You called her Doc.
Steve remembers the name of some random redhead Bucky tried to impress more than 70 years ago.
Yeah, but Steve has essentially been asleep for most of that time, so to him, it's really only been for a couple of years.
Even though we're seeing this in full color, the movie's trying to say Tony can see this same angle in footage too, driving home the drama of his mother getting strangled. But really, all he'd be able to see is Bucky standing next to the car, doing something, probably bad.
Yeah, and that's all that would be necessary for someone as smart as Tony to figure out what happened.
This is all he wanted, to see them rip each other apart.
Yep, and just think, he could have done this by simply sending the tape to Tony with a little post-it note that read, "Play me."
But in order to do that, he would have needed to get the footage, which he couldn't do because he didn't know where the base was. That's why he needed to get Bucky out of hiding and steal a book so that he could get the mission report out of him and learn where the base is.
Again, he's not gonna die. What a pussy this movie is.
This sin is for the fact that Captain America doesn't kill his fucking friend.
All that time, all that effort, to see it fail so spectacularly.
Did it?
Well, pretty much, yeah. I mean, Bucky lost an arm, but generally Cap and Tony are good to go for Infinity War.
Yeah, that sin certainly didn't age well.
I guess I thought by not telling you about your parents, I was sparing you. But I can see now that I was really sparing myself.
From f***ing what? Also, the "I didn't tell you so that I could protect you" cliche once again.
Which, as I mentioned in my Deadpool video, is a real thing that people do sometimes. So the sin total is 15, and for the penalty, I'm going to reuse another joke from my It video, and remove all of the sins, because apparently, Jeremy has some kind of a fucking problem with that. And to be clear, the penalty here is the recycling of the joke, because that adds a level of irony that means I can get away with being lazy. And with that, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, then why not leave a like, or subscribe, or leave your sin suggestions for the Iron Man 3 video in the comments below. Although, it is going to be a little while before that video comes out, because as I mentioned in my last video, I'm going to be taking a bit of a break from this channel to focus on college. But I hope you have a good day, and bye!